In fact, I used to do a lot of these workshops, FDPs, teacher leadership programs, many of these programs.
Your presentation is down, seems.
No issues. I'm just looking at I just talk and then I will.
Sure.
Yeah. So my background is in the area of psychology. I've done my PhD in the area of organizational behavior from IIT Bombay, and then I worked in IIT Madras as assistant professor for some time, and then I joined IIT Hyderabad. Currently, I'm in two roles. One is I'm an associate professor in the Department of Liberal Arts, and we have created a new department in the in IIT Hyderabad, which is entrepreneurship and management. So I'm heading the department and building the new department. So that's about me. And teacher leadership, teacher effectiveness, teacher training, and all those areas are very close to my heart. Yeah. So having said that, let's before we start. I know that many of us, not many of us, I mean, the entire country and the entire world is undergoing so much of hardship now, and especially teachers. We are like any other service providers. Teachers, we are forced to, not forced to. I mean, we have this responsibility of keep going, like any like doctors, like teachers, like policemen, police personnel, and people like that. So, but it doesn't mean that we are not affected by this pandemic. And I acknowledge that maybe many of you would have personally gotten affected by the pandemic, or one of your relatives would have gotten affected by the pandemic. So let's take a second and wish everyone a good health and well-being. Okay, because we should acknowledge that we cannot like act as if everything is normal. So we are not in normal times. So just take few seconds to have good thoughts, wishes for people who are affected by this pandemic, and let's wish them good health and well-being. Okay, so I'll start now. I'm going to talk about teacher effectiveness and stress management. Like most teachers, I prefer to have people sitting opposite to me and talk. I don't prefer to talk in front of a camera. Initially when it became a norm, a new normal, taking online classes, it was very difficult. But slowly now the new normal has become the normal. This has become, I don't know when it will end and when we are going to meet students face to face. The last time I met a student face to face was more than a year ago. Okay, I'm sure maybe another 6-7 months it's going to be like that, at least 6-7 months. So we are getting used to this new normal, but I prefer to have conversations. Okay, so if you have something to say, you can either type in your responses in the chat box, or you can pitch in and say. Okay, you can talk. But having said that, there are some online etiquettes. For example, 2-3 people talking at the same time may not work well in online platform. In a classroom, it might work, but in an online platform, it may not work. And there might be background noises. So please keep your mics on mute. In case if you want to say something, you can say something, or you can type in your responses in the chat box. Okay. So try to be more interactive. I will also ask questions. I may ask you to type in your responses in the chat box. Okay, so let's start. So this is the ground rule for this session. So before we start, I would like to ask you a question. What is effectiveness? I'm sure many of you are engineering teachers and science teachers in the science background. You would have heard this term effectiveness in your courses or in your subject area. So how do you define effectiveness, or what is effectiveness, and how is it different from efficiency? So I would request you to type in your responses in the chat box. If you can do that, it will be wonderful. I'll give you maybe a few minutes. So please type in your understanding of the term effectiveness. Yeah. So is it possible for you to type in that permission is given to you?
Looks like there is some permission problem.
Okay.
Yeah, I think once somebody is responding.
Yeah, the part of efficiency which is useful. Okay. Useful efficiency is effectiveness. Okay. No, don't think about teaching. Just when you hear this word effectiveness, okay, when you hear about this word effectiveness, what do we mean by effectiveness? And how is it different from efficiency? Okay, effectiveness refers to ability, efficient refers to result. Yeah. Yeah. Please go ahead, sir. To complete a task with minimal attempt. Somebody's mic, they should mute the mic. I'm hearing echo. Yeah.
Can you unmute yourself, Ganesh? I just unmuted. I muted all. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Ajay Pal is somewhere close. It has an intended or expected outcome. Okay. To complete the task with minimal attempt. To complete a task with minimal attempt is efficiency. Okay. What is effectiveness then? Efficiency is ability, effectiveness is result. Okay. Somebody has used Google, I guess. Anantu has used Google, I guess, because the definition, it sounds like very definition kind of answer. Okay, good. So I will explain what is effectiveness and how it is different from efficiency. Like the picture says, effectiveness is achieving the right kind of goals. Okay, so or achieving desired goals which are useful. Okay, efficiency is achieving a goal with minimal effort or input output ratio, with optimal resources or with less resources compared to others, you're achieving a result, but that result may not be a desirable result. You must be seeing all these Guinness Book of Records feats. People do useless things, but they'll be having a record in that, having a very long nail, or how many cigarettes in one go you can smoke, how many burgers in a minute you can eat. See, all those goals are not really, desired, or in fact, some of these goals might be negative, will have a negative effect. Okay, so that is so efficiency is achieving something with minimal input, but the result may not necessarily be a desired result. On the other hand, effectiveness means achieving something which has benefit for everyone in a very philosophical sense, doing something which is beneficial for everyone, or at least for the one who is trying to achieve it. Okay, but again, this definition is, or this way of understanding effectiveness, like any other social scientist, you can question it. Okay, for example, when you say desired result, what do you mean by desired? For example, my child, or let's say if you have an adolescent kid, if you have a teenager son or daughter, they would prefer to play computer games. They might be sitting there and playing there for hours together, and they might be the leader in that number of points they get. Maybe they might be the first ranking person in that game, but you may think it is waste of time. As a parent, you may think, this is like waste of time and my child is wasting his or her time. But from the child's perspective, that is what he desires, he or she desires. Okay, so who defines something as beneficial or not? Okay, something as right or wrong? Okay, this may sound very not very important kind of a question, but let's say everyone has a goal in our life, isn't it? If you ask me, my goal for my life for next 5 years is maybe buy a house, okay, or buy a big car, or getting promoted, So for me, that is an important goal, a desired goal. But from another person's point of view, see, you're not spending time with your family. For earning money, you are like, you're not having proper work-life balance. For me, publishing paper is more important. That will help me get promoted. But from my child's perspective or from my spouse perspective, you're not spending time with us. Okay. So without spending time with us, what is the point of getting promoted? Or so by sacrificing our own health, we might be doing something which we think as desirable. So when you set goals, it is very important to understand from whose perspective we are saying that goal is a desired goal or not. Okay. So this is a very deeply philosophical question for each one of us. What do we do? What do we want to do with our life? And that definition of success in our life, is that definition my definition or somebody else's definition, or if it is even my definition, is it whose definition does it reflect? Let's say I may want to buy a house in my ancestral village, but it may not be. I may truly believe that I want to do that, but it may not necessarily be my goal. It must be my parents' desire, which I believed it to be my goal. Okay, this is like our engineering students. Many of these students want to become engineers, get into IIT, and they strongly believe they want to get into IIT. But after 2-3 years in their graduation time, undergraduation, they will understand this is not they want to do. They wanted to get into IIT because their parents want them to get into IIT, and then they will do something else. They'll become screenplay writers, or they'll become artists. They'll become business people. Okay, so it's always important to ask. So when you think of effectiveness, achieving right goals, it's important to ask from whose perspective we label it or we evaluate it as a right or wrong goal. Okay, so I hope you understood the difference. Okay, efficiency and effectiveness. But again, if someone is efficient or someone is effective, someone who can achieve the goal, which is a right kind of goal, does it mean that they will be efficient? Okay, other way around. If somebody is efficient, does it mean that they are effective? Again, we cannot say that. For example, I might be like, very good in writing many papers, publishing papers, but all the papers which I publish might be not in great journals. So every year I publish 5 papers, let's say. Okay, but those papers are in mediocre journals. So I'm very efficient in publishing papers, quick in publishing papers, but I may not publish them in the right kind of journals. Okay, so I am efficient but not effective. Other way around, I might be very effective. In 10 years, I publish only 1 paper, but I publish in like topmost ranking paper journal. Okay, so I'm very effective but not efficient. Once in 10 years, if I publish 1 paper, it's better than it's not like let's say A-star publication. I publish only 1 in 10 years. Instead, I can publish B in 10 papers in 10 years. So which is more valuable? Again, it depends on who looks at it. Okay. Sometimes it is possible to have both. I can publish 5 papers, good topmost ranking papers, 5 papers in 10 years. So I'm both efficient and effective. Let's say if I publish 1 topmost paper in every year, then I'm like very high in effectiveness and efficiency. Okay. So ask yourself in terms of your goals, where do you stand? Okay. But it's always better, if you ask me efficiency is better or effectiveness is better, I would prefer effectiveness. Doing a wrong thing in a better way is not a good thing. People say something is better than nothing. Okay. But again, one of my teachers used to say, nothing is better than nonsense. Okay. So it means if you are like very good in doing bad things, it's better to not do that. Okay. So sometimes not doing something itself is a good thing. Okay. So things like unhealthy behavior, or things like self-harming behavior, all those things there's no point in doing. For example, smoking, drinking, or wasting time in terms of using social media. So all those things, you might be you might be having 1,000 friends in your Facebook, but if you're not actually doing it in a productive way, then there is no point in doing that. Okay. So the difference between, in one sentence, effectiveness and efficiency is, effectiveness is doing the right things. Efficiency is doing things the right way. If you do things in the right way, you can do more. The same thing you can do more. So that is efficiency. With minimal wastage, you can do. That is efficiency. Effectiveness is doing the right thing. Even though you are slow, you do the right thing. Okay. So any questions or viewpoints you can type in, because it's very important to understand efficiency and effectiveness from a personal goal setting point of view. Okay. So if you have any questions, you can ask. Mr. Megawat has raised his hand. You can unmute and talk. Mr. Megawat raised his hand. So anybody else, if you have any questions, viewpoints, you can quickly type in your questions or viewpoints. Okay, so I'll go ahead. So why I spend so much time in efficiency, effectiveness is, when we are setting goals or when we are defining our professional goals, okay, or when we are defining success, especially professional success. We are talking about professional life here, but it applies to personal life also. Okay, so we all have this idea of happy life, successful life, desirable life, or desirable profession, desirable status. Okay, we all have this idea, or knowingly, unknowingly, we set that as a criteria. For example, like I said, for me, how will I evaluate myself as a successful teacher? There are multiple ways I can do. One is, like, I may say, okay, I have to publish more. My H index should be more. Okay, to define myself as a, just a minute. There is sorry about this. So I may use multiple criteria. So I may use a criteria which is good publication, but I may fail in teaching. I might be a bad teacher, but I may be a good researcher. Okay, so for me, I'll be very happy that I'm a good researcher. By that, I also feel happy that I'm a good teacher. Okay, I'm a good IIT professor. But let's say if I look at my teaching feedback, all the students will say, this is the worst teacher I've ever encountered. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't know how to handle the class. He doesn't know the subject. They will say that. You might be very good publishing in top level journals, but your students may say this teacher doesn't know anything about the subject area because your teaching style is bad. Okay, other way around, I may teach wonderfully well, but I may not have good publication. I may not get promoted. I will feel very sad that people like me. I'm the top ranking teacher in terms of teacher ratings. Every student likes me. In fact, students say that I've changed their lives. I've had an impact on their life, but I'm not getting promoted because my publications are low. Okay, so at every point in time, we have this dilemma: how to define effectiveness for our own life, for our own success. So you have to ask yourself whether this yardstick of success or failure, you should define it on your own, or let others, or consult with others, or use others' viewpoints also to have this criteria. Because, like I said, you might be very happy, but from a society's point of view, or you may not be growing up in your career. You might be thinking you're doing well, but you may not grow up in your career because others or the decision makers will have a different yardstick. So what do you do with that? So I mean, I don't have answers for that, but it's up to you to decide how you define your success or how you define your effectiveness. Okay, so now I'm going to ask a very simple question. most of you are teachers, I assume. Some of you might be pure researchers, like research scholars, or I don't know, research assistants. So who's a teacher according to you? Let's ask a very basic question, philosophical question. Who is a teacher? How do you define a teacher? So please type in your responses. I think many of you have no access to the chat. So how do you define a teacher? According to you, who's a teacher? Because that will help you define your success as a teacher. Someone who shares knowledge, master of simplification, but fond to deal complex things. Excellent. Someone who explains things in a very simple manner, but understands the complexity of it. So one of my professor used to say, if you're a good researcher, let's say if you're doing PhD, whether you truly understand your own research or not, it's a test. The test is you should be able to explain it to even a 6-year-old kid. Let's say if you have a child, 8-year-old child, if you're able to explain your research to that child to that level, okay, that means you understand your own research. People try to complicate things. It means they don't actually understand it. But when you explain in a very simple words, doesn't mean that it is a simple idea. Okay, a complex idea, you should understand the complexity, but explain it in simple words. Okay, that is one. Sharing knowledge, introducing new ideas, guides people in the right direction. Very good. Okay, so now there is a reason why I put this picture. Swimming. Okay, someone is teaching a child, a teacher or coach is teaching a child swimming. So I want to ask you a question. I know many of you may not be able to type in. Just ask yourself, there are 2 questions I want to ask. Okay, how many of you can swim and how many of you know swimming? Okay, how many of you can actually, if you jump in water, how many of you can swim? Okay, so how many of you can swim? 2, how many of you know swimming? There's a difference. Okay, so why I'm saying this is, in fact, everyone in this world, any living organism, including elephants, newborn babies, if you put them in water, let's say a newborn baby, just put it in swimming pool, it will swim, it will float. Okay, it will swim. In fact, if you would have seen people in Western countries delivering children, women delivering children in swimming pool, okay, or pool, and the newborn baby swims. Elephant, there was a National Geographical video I saw, an elephant which first time seeing an ocean, and it was swimming. Okay, so any living thing can swim, but let's say suddenly one day if you jump into a swimming pool as an adult, people will drown, isn't it? We will drown. So why is it happening? And what is the role of a coach in teaching swimming? So if swimming is inborn, swimming is an inborn skill. If swimming is an inborn skill, why do we need a teacher to teach us swimming? You don't need to teach swimming. It's like walking. Most of us, it's very natural for us to walk. When you are born, after 1 year or 1.5 years or 2 years, most of us should walk. Similarly, swimming, most of us, or not most of us, all babies will swim. So why we are not able to swim now? I want your answers. So if swimming is an inborn thing, why people drown? Fear. Exactly. So what is fear? Fear is new learning. Okay. Fear is you believe that, or you get information that when you grow up, If I fall in water, I will die. Or you have seen people dying, drowning in water. You've seen you get this idea that water can be dangerous. I will not float. Okay, so new learning makes our true self, or it's like a cloud covering a sun, or darkness covering the light. Our true self is knowledge or wisdom or capability, but other new learnings like fear, misinformation, certain belief systems which are not rational or irrational belief systems. So all those things covers our true capabilities. In a very higher level of teaching, what teacher does is make the student unlearn these things which are not necessary. Okay, so there are many levels of teaching or many levels of learning. Okay, so first level of learning is learning new information. Second level of learning is learning how to learn. Okay, so there are certain, so a teacher at a very basic level teaches a student what to learn. Okay, which is like a typical mode of going and lecturing in a classroom. So you give a material, you are teaching people information. Okay, that's the first level. Second level is teaching students how to learn. So you don't go and give them the material, you don't give lecture, you give them you tell them, see, this is a broad outline, this is how you have to search. You give them the syllabus, you tell them these are the open source material available, these are the case studies which you can use, or these are the videos you can watch, these are the references. You learn on your own. Okay, that's the second level, teaching how to learn. Okay, the third level is critical learning. Okay, ask people to decide what to learn and how to learn. So, or making students matured enough to decide for themselves what to learn and the methodology to learn. So it is like making them such a matured level of learners so that they learn on their own. It may sound very utopian, very idealistic. You may think it may not work. In fact, it works. For example, very simple example, PhD level learning. In a true sense, if you are guiding someone, you are not telling them which is the, I mean, in a very ideal sense, you don't tell your PhD student what should be the research problem. And you should not tell them, I mean, to some level, we'll tell them how to search. Beyond a point, when they are ready, you are just like, someone who walks along with them. Okay. So someone to ensure, like swimming, the role of the coach is to give reassurance that if something goes wrong, I am there to help you, or giving them the confidence that you'll be able to do it. But don't worry if somewhere you fail, I'm there to help you. Okay, so that's the third level of teaching or learning. Giving that maturity to that student, where the student himself or herself knows what to learn and how to learn in a very ideal sense. But again, in a day-to-day university setup or classroom setup, it may not be possible always. For that, you need to have a matured kind of students and a matured kind of a system and a matured kind of a teacher. Sometimes a teacher might feel insecure. Even in a classroom, a student uses a mobile phone, smartphone. Many times we think that this student is like disturbing my class or doing something which is irrelevant or not interested in my class. Not necessarily. The student might be looking at the phone, searching for information, and learning on his own whatever you're saying. In one of my class, I used to teach this introduction to management for BTech students, first year BTech students. So I was telling about industrial revolution, all those ideas. So one student was, so in my class, I am like quite lenient, so they can use their mobile phone. I don't actually, pain them too much. So one student was watching the mobile phone, and then when I was talking about industrial revolution, suddenly he got up and said, "Sir, the year you mentioned was wrong." I was like at least 20 years away from what the actual year period of industrial revolution, because it makes a huge difference. I mean, 20 years time, many other advancements would have happened. So he said the year you have mentioned is like very arbitrary year. It's not true. I asked him, how do you know? He said, I looked at my phone and searched in Wikipedia. So sometimes, as a teacher, students using mobile phone in the classroom can be a threat, not because they'll not be interested in the lecture. Sometimes they may be over involved and challenge you also. Okay. So as a teacher, giving freedom to the student or allowing students to learn on their own can be a threat for us. So teacher can be insecure. Sometimes students may not have the motivation. Students may think there's no point in learning all those things. Why should I learn algebra? I'm not going to use it in my daily life. So the role of the teacher is to create that interest. Explain that student, see, there is a beauty in learning this. There's a point in learning this. Creating interest. Sometimes the system may not be conducive. Everybody has to finish the syllabus. There are so much of teaching load for the teacher, or the students are like many of them come from poor background, or their mindset itself is like they don't want to think outside the syllabus. Many a times students may not even, if you give them freedom, they'll say no, you give the syllabus. If you tell them learn through this method which is like more creative, they'll say no sir, give the syllabus, give the notes, we will read it and write it in the exam. Okay, so students may also be not willing to take that risk. But again, like I said, in an ideal situation, that is this is what we should aim for. This is what is effective teaching or effective learning. Okay, so we may not reach there, but the goal is to reach there. Okay, so understand life is not about being in a place, and I mean, again, I sound very philosophical. It's not like you reach a place and say I have successful. Okay, success is not a place. Success is a journey. How enjoyable is your journey. So when I say this is ideal, it doesn't mean that we all will go there or we all will reach there, but the journey towards that goal is more enjoyable, and we should aim for that. Okay. So another thing which I learned from one of my professors. In fact, he used to be the director of IIT Madras when I was working there. So he used to say a role of a teacher is not to cover the syllabus. So as teachers, we all think we should cover the syllabus. We should finish the syllabus on time. Okay, we should not overshot our time. So this professor Anant, his name is Anant, he used to say a good teacher is not there to cover the syllabus to the student. A good teacher is there to uncover the syllabus. Uncover means open it so that the student will get curious. Okay. So I used to give this example, in all my teacher training programs. Whenever I go and talk to teachers in FDPs, faculty development programs, I used to say the role of a teacher is not to cover the syllabus, but to uncover the syllabus. So one teacher said, sir, covering itself is not possible. We don't have time. We don't have resources. We don't have enough material. Students are demotivated. They are not interested. Forget about uncovering. Covering itself is not possible. You're talking about uncovering. So what I'm trying to say is, many times it's very, very difficult. From a very idealistic point of view, we may say different things, but in reality, it might be difficult. So I understand that, I acknowledge that, but my point is, there is a goal or there is something which is desirable, but not able to achieve it should not be the reason for not moving towards it. Okay, as a teacher. So try doing it. Try to see how you can reach the third level of teaching versus teaching and learning, where you make students matured enough to themselves choose what they want to learn and how they want to learn. Okay. So there was a study conducted in UK, long back, which asked students who is a good teacher. Okay, so many students, around 10,000, more than 10,000 students were asked, higher secondary school level students, according to you, who is a good teacher? Give qualities of a good teacher. So what do you think from a student's perspective is a good teacher? Type in your responses. Quickly type in your responses from a student's point of view. Don't think from your teacher's point of view. From a student's point of view, according to a student, what do you think would be a quality of a good teacher? So what do you think from a student's perspective is a good teacher's quality? I'm not seeing any answers. Okay, so I think I'll move on. There is some problem in chat box, I guess. So when I ask this to teachers, according to students, what do you think students criteria of a good teacher? Many of them will say good in subject area. Teacher should be a good knowledgeable person. A teacher should be a very very eminent person, all those stuff. But this is the ranking. From a student's point of view, a good teacher is someone who has sense of humor. Okay, so if one simple secret, if you want good teacher ratings, you should crack more jokes. Okay, and you should not be a very, very caduce kind of a person. In the classroom, you should be like a very jovial person. Okay, and should make the class interesting. It's not about showing them you know things. Okay, it's about making them understand the curious, or making them curious. Okay, making them understand the value of what you're teaching in a very humorous way. Okay, not like if you study this, you'll get a job and all those stuff. So being humorous, creating a climate means in the classroom, creating that environment where people laugh, people smile. Okay, students smile. If you see more students smiling in your class, I mean, not, when they talk to each other, also they smile, they laugh. That also means, whatever you're saying, they are discussing. It also means they are interested in discussing about what you're saying. But if you see many people smiling when you're talking in your class, it means they like you or they like the class. Okay. So knowledge comes only third. You might be a Nobel Prize winner, but if you don't make the class interesting from a student's point of view, you are useless. Okay. If you say I have given 3 different colors in the ranking. Okay. So there are green color, there is one blue color, there are red colors. So green color ones are certain things which are common in nature. Red color ones, there is some common element. So what is the common element? The green colored ones are interpersonal skills. Interpersonal skills means you're able to handle students well, or you're able to interact with students well. Okay, explaining things clearly is communication skills. Relating well with students is interpersonal skills. Able to understand student feelings is empathy, which is also a skill. Okay, emotional intelligence and all those stuff. The ones in red color are value systems, which means you have certain moral standard where you respect students as adults. You are treating them fairly. You don't show any favoritism. It's like a value system. Okay, knowledge is only one. So if you want to be a good teacher from a student's perspective, you should have more people skills than technical skills or subject knowledge. Okay, subject knowledge is very important. So without subject knowledge, you cannot go and crack jokes. That will also fail. In fact, I've seen teachers who are very good in entertaining students, but students will say they will take you very easily. They'll think without knowledge, just entertaining will also not work. Knowledge is very, very important, but you should know how to convey that knowledge by looking at things from students' point of view. We call it compassion and empathy. See, one thing about a good teacher is good teacher looks at the subject from the student's point of view, not from. See, you might be having PhD in that area. You have studied that subject for 20 years, 30 years. But from a BTech student, first year student's point of view, this is like an alien thing. from that person's point of view, he or she may not have the knowledge, the interest, the capability to understand what you're saying. So look at things from others' point of view. In fact, this is not just teaching capability. It's like a human. If you want to be a successful person, someone who is loved by most people, you should have this capability. Where looking at things from the other person's point of view. In psychology, we call it empathy. Okay. So quickly, so this particular topic today is I have two sections. One is teacher effectiveness and teacher stress management. So I will roughly 1 hour each, but we'll have 10 minutes break. So I will talk about teacher effectiveness. I'll introduce that concept to you. So when we talk about a good teacher, a good teacher or a successful teacher, again, this is sort of my definition of it. You may not have to, accept that. Okay, because like I said, effectiveness is each person's understanding of what is right and wrong. Okay. So as a teacher, I see teacher as someone who's a leader. Okay. Not just like someone who goes to the class and lectures. Someone who has the responsibility and potential to holistically develop the student or make the student matured individual. Okay. In fact, there's a concept called super leadership. Super leadership means creating leaders. So a leader who creates leaders. So a true leader is someone who creates more leaders so that there is no need for him or her. Okay. So beyond a point, they themselves will learn, or they themselves will achieve their goal. You don't need a teacher. Okay. But till that point, there is a requirement for a teacher. Okay. So that is a true teacher leader. So a role of a teacher leader is not just within the four walls of the classroom. A teacher leader, his or her role is beyond, in fact, more than within the classroom. Outside the classroom, creating that environment is more important. Like I said, many times we are not able to achieve or go to that level because the system doesn't facilitate or help. Okay. So as a teacher leader, your role is also to create that environment. Again, you may think, how much influence do I have? UGC decides the syllabus. The university decides the syllabus. So what can I do? Okay, you can do. What you can do if you go to a UGC level kind of, people who sit in UGC or people who sit in university syllabus committee and all, they're also teachers. They're also people like you. So if you go to that level, you can have an influence. Okay. So teacher leader is someone, I'm not going to read those definitions. Teacher leader is someone who does or creates this change within this classroom and outside the classroom, or both in terms of teaching, learning as a practice, and also the overall learning or education as a system. Okay, when I say education system, syllabus setting, or creating evaluation methods, forming rules and regulations, creating policies. So as a teacher, you can also reach that level and change things. For example, a principal is a teacher, heading an institute. He or she, principal, is a teacher. Okay, but he or she is also an administrator. Okay, so many times what happens when you become a principal, you forget that your basic role is a teacher's role. You are there to facilitate student learning, and you become very dogmatic. Dogmatic means no, students should not do this, they should not do that. We should finish the syllabus. Things should happen like this. See, rules are important, but rules are there to facilitate learning. In a learning or an education institution setup. So, as a teacher, if you're a true teacher leader, when you go there, you look at things from an empathetic point of view. Okay. So, being a teacher, your responsibility is also there to go to that level to change things. Okay. But again, should everyone go there? Should everyone become dean? Should everyone become UGC syllabus committee member, or everybody become at the highest level, probably, you become education minister? Not necessarily. There are different levels. At every level, you can make a difference. Okay. So who is a good, I mean, what are the qualities of a teacher leader? People who use innovative ways of teaching. A good teacher leader will also be a good learner. Like I said, if you want to be a good teacher, you have to look at things from a student's point of view, which also means you should learn, you should, you should also be a student. You should put yourself in their shoes. So if you're never, you always take this, let's say you always assume that I'm a teacher and I have to communicate one-way communication, it will not going to work. So you will also at some point sit in their position and see. For example, how many of you have sat, I mean, this workshop, now you know that the pain of online teaching, okay, online learning. Many of you probably would have looking at the screens, browsing something else, switching off the camera and not in the seats. I understand that. But if when you are a teacher, you will feel students are useless. They are like, not listening to me. Probably now, as a student, you may feel it's very difficult to sit in front of a screen and keep listening to someone for 2 hours at a stretch. Okay. So when you become a teacher, you understand the pain of it. Okay. So as a teacher leader, one should also become student, in terms of understanding things from a learner's point of view. Okay. And also it will help you to update yourself continuously. Teacher leaders are also mentors. Mentors means they will help their subordinates, so they don't feel insecure. They don't feel, if my subordinate publishes more paper, I will be, or if his or her teacher ranking becomes better, my my credentials will become less. Okay, so people who are insecure, teachers who don't, teachers who feel others' growth will damage their growth, they cannot become teacher leaders. And also these teacher leaders, they will collaborate with others, they'll collaborate with peers. They will also be very active in curriculum development and administration. They will show initiative in terms of participating in administrative activities. And at a very larger level, they will also impact community, which means if you see many of these big or great teachers, they are also social leaders. They are social leaders, or leaders who have made a difference in the society. If you see, many of them their profession would have been teachers. Okay, so as a teacher, is it your role to change the community? Do you have to participate in community development or community change, positive change in the community? In fact, I mean, I don't have time. I don't, but I'll quickly tell you something. Okay. So I studied in a college which, in my college days, which is in a very, there was a lot of communal problems in that particular low socioeconomic status kind of area. It was in a slum area. And there are a lot of problems in that area, and many students from that locality came to study in this college. Okay, and many times problems in the community will affect the college. So there's a lot of alcoholism, drug abuse, poverty, and all those things. So one of my teacher, she started influencing the community through the students, through NSS, through de-addiction camps. She was a psychologist. So it made a difference. So when the community was supportive, the college also runs smoothly. So it is not like you should change the community because it's a responsibility. Your college or your educational institution is part of the community. So unless until the community is proper, your education institution cannot prosper, or learning cannot happen. Okay. So there is a video link. I will forward it to this slide. You can have it. I'll ask the Dr. Ashok to forward it to you. You can have this. You can see this video. Okay. So, like I said, teacher leaders can play a role at different levels: at a classroom level, at an institute level, at the larger, systemic level. So, at a classroom level, being a good teacher, facilitator, coaching the student, mentoring the student, all those things. At the institute level, you can participate in, clubs, or all these interest groups. You can be part of administration. You can be part of NSS. You can lead students in terms of activities, all those things. Or even mentoring your own colleagues, creating an environment in your institution where students are encouraged to learn and be creative, all those things. At a beyond the institute level, you can be part of professional associations. You can try to get into leadership roles apart from your institute. For example, like I said, committee members, syllabus committee members, all those things. But again, it's up to you. I'm not saying everybody should become dean or everybody should become director or principal. In fact, some of us choose to be leaders at the classroom level itself. So one of my professor, he's like a best teacher. I've seen, he's like one of the best teachers I've ever met. You can listen to him for 2 hours at a stretch also. That kind of a teacher. And he became dean. And when he became dean, what happened? He also enjoys teaching. What happened was his responsibilities were more in terms of administration, and his teaching load came down, and he was not able to teach on a regular basis. So after 1 year, he said, "I don't want to be a dean, but I prefer teaching, and I prefer to be a good teacher rather than being an administrator." But again, it doesn't mean that being an administrator is also bad. If you're an administrator, you're impacting many people. You're changing policies. You're making decisions which impact many students, many teachers at a very higher level. But some people prefer to have one-to-one contact. Like this teacher, he prefers to have impact at an individual level. So when students nod to him, when students enjoy his classroom, he feels he is successful. His definition of effectiveness is at a student level, he should have an impact. Somebody else, their definition of effectiveness is they should have an impact at a macro level, at a very large level, and changing group level policies. Okay, so both are meritful, or both are important at their own level. So it depends on you where you want to go. Okay. So why should one become a teacher leader? One, you will share more knowledge with your colleagues, and also you'll create an environment where everybody will learn. You will also grow continuously. Your colleagues will grow continuously. Your teachers will grow your students will learn continuously. They will grow continuously. Student-teacher relationship will be positive. More than everything, you'll have happiness. It's not just getting promoted. It's also about the satisfaction of doing something useful. But again, whatever I said sounds very idealistic, because in real life there are many barriers. One, teaching load. We all have a lot of teaching load. We don't have enough resources. IIT itself, we find it difficult in certain instances when we don't have certain resources. Many universities or even local colleges, they may not have resources. They may not have opportunities. And also there might be a lot of politics. Politics means because there is lack of resources, there might be competition to achieve the goal. If you climb, somebody else will drag you down. Okay. So these are some of the problems at a system level. So how to overcome them? One, if you have teaching load, there are many other tools available. You don't have to cover the syllabus. You can help students learn through themselves through online sources. You can give them video links. You can give them online reading material. You can just facilitate. Okay. But only problem is students may not be ready for that kind of a learning. So for that, you need to create curiosity. Lack of resources. If you don't have resources, what should you do? Share resources. Collaborate with other universities like IITs or other labs in your government labs. Write to people, say that, see, we need these resources. Can we share the resources? Library resources or lab resources. Okay. Lack of opportunities. Lack of opportunities is not true. Many times we don't know where is the opportunity. Okay. So knowing opportunities is a key to get those opportunities. If you don't even know where are the opportunities, you will think there are no opportunities. So how will you know there is opportunity? Information sharing. If you help someone achieve their goal, if you share someone, this is a fellowship which is available, I forward it to everyone in my group. professional group, they will also forward. Many times people tend to hide information. So if you share information, others will also share information. Politics. What will you do with politics when people are like pulling you down? So when people pull you down, I mean, again, it sounds very idealistic. You push people up. They think you are pulling you down. That's why they are pushing you down. Okay. So let them go first. If once they go, you will have space. So what I'm trying to say is, when instead of competing with others, try to collaborate. Try to show them I'm not a threat to you. Try to tell them we both can grow together. Okay. So apart from that, there are other personal level barriers. Fear of failure. Fear of failure means if I try something new, if I fail, everybody will make fun of me. Okay. I've tried to be an extraordinary teacher and did something, but nobody liked it. My HOD didn't like it, or I failed in certain things. People may make fun of me. So that is fear of failure. It's okay. I mean, risk. There is always chance of failure if you take risk. But beyond a point, if you keep trying, you will achieve your goal. Okay. So don't worry about fear of failure. Learn helplessness. 2-3 times you tried. 4th time you don't even try. You tried convincing your HOD or principal that please help me in doing this workshop or doing this training program. They didn't help. 4th time you don't even try. Okay. So keep trying is the solution. Fear of success is when you become successful, you become alienated. People may feel jealous of you. People may feel you are not friendly. People may feel you are a very focused person. So people may feel you are not helpful. Okay. So how to overcome that? They say at top you become lonely. So how to overcome that? Bring people with you to the top. Instead of you going alone to the top, help others also reach top, so that they will also feel encouraged and they will help you to achieve more success. Okay. So I'll stop here. We will have a quick break. Okay. We'll have a 5 minutes break and then come back in 5 minutes. Okay. Dr. Ashok, is it okay if we have a 5 minutes break?
Yes, it's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have a just 10:30. We'll come back at 10:35.